World Cup for the men, World Cup for the women. What about a World Cup for me?
Mehnat karo. Nobody had quite had the swag and the persona of Viv Richards in the middle.
You have to tell me. It's amazing India didn't conquer England because it's so much easier if we reversed it. We do it in 20 minutes. We have in a way. But the payments were still a pittance, right?
I love the 5-day game.
Yeah.
But I'm not, disdainful about T20 or the ODI. I love cricket.
It's in the air. It's a six.
Yep, welcome to Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFC FIRST Bank. We're happy to tell you we've revamped it, evolved into a more conversational style. We've heard what people say and we listen to what you say because ours is a democratic show. And we've got with us one of the great legends when it comes to writing on the sport of cricket, the one and only Ayaz Memon, who has covered the game for the last 268 years. Ayaz, really, jokes apart, what a pleasure having you. I think one of the things we have in common is that since I was a young boy, I would chase you and drive you nuts when you were just a young reporter yourself, and that stayed with us. That was wherever we go, we discuss cricket.
That's true, and you're still chasing me, and you're still young.
And,
so that's the good part.
Yeah, but this is a professional setup, though.
Is it?
Yeah, so this is no longer an Alibag leaning against a bar and having a conversation. It's you and me discussing cricket in nice comfort with an air conditioner which may or may not work. But today's topic, very interesting. The first 3 World Cups, and let me explain which are the 3. 75, 79, all in England, and 73. Do you remember 73?
The Women's World Cup.
That's right. How many teams were there?
If I remember correctly, 7 teams.
7 teams
Yes,
played.
7 teams
India
played.
didn't actually play, although we had started playing women's cricket across the country here and there.
This was a big step ahead for women's cricket. The fact that it started in 1973, it actually preceded the
Ahead of the
men's tournament.
Yeah.
And I think
but
largely...
they say Ayaz ladies first. It's a famous...
And I think largely it was because of the benevolence of Jack Hayward, a businessman who donated £40,000 then.
Wow. I'll take it now.
For women's cricket. That was a fantastic gesture, and it set the ball rolling for women's
So
cricket.
it was at a time where everybody needed, I won't say handouts, but you need support and patrons to come forward. Yeah.
Yes, sport has always needed patrons,
Yeah.
and certainly mega tournaments like cricket, they just set the ball rolling.
But look at the growth from 73 to, if we look at 2023-24, in this short period of time we look at it actually.
I think cricket has become a really big global sport now. In the last 10-15 years particularly, maybe 25 years, and largely because, India has just become a behemoth in where cricket is concerned. The men's events, obviously, but also the women's events. The audience is here, the money is here, the passion is here, and the eyeballs are here.
I mean, there's a World Cup for the men, World Cup for the women. What about a World Cup for me?
Mehnat karo.
Karta hai. Let's get back to 75. By then you're a journalist, right?
I am just about getting into the profession.
So how did you cover it? India didn't take one-day cricket seriously at that point. I think Bishan and Sunny, the big stars, were really not interested.
India was the dull dogs of cricket then, and it just got kind of enhanced, that kind of image in the 75 World Cup. From the first match itself, when India played England and, chasing a mammoth score, India really struggled.
You wanted
Gavaskar, making 36
Yeah.
of 60 overs.
So, not out for what it's
Not
worth.
out.
Yeah.
So that became like an abiding image.
So what was happening there? Why weren't they playing it seriously, or they were not happy? What was going on?
Cyrus is very interesting. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, including
Sunny himself.
Gavaskar. So one was, I don't think at that point in time a lot of cricketers across the world took one-day cricket as seriously as, say, people who had played county cricket, where there was one-day cricket from the mid-1960s.
Yeah.
And, they had seen the audiences coming in. But players from India, even Sri Lanka maybe, and to some extent Pakistan, but remember Pakistan players
had
were
more players in the
all
county circuit.
All of them.
Starting with Imran downwards,
All of them.
Yeah.
Asif Iqbal, Mushtaq
And that's why
Mohammad,
they had
Zaid
decent
Abbas.
runs in 75-79.
It was a very good team, Pakistan. But what I do remember of and because I tracked it, the World Cup was a big event happening in cricket. Though I was not a journalist, my passion just made me dive deeper into the details. And what I remember, this was borne out in the final when West Indies played Australia.
Yeah.
And it kind of, because
I hope you were supporting West Indies like me.
Rohan Kanhai was my childhood favourite, one of them,
Right.
And his inclusion in the team, the West Indies team, caught me a little by surprise. So Kanhai and Clive Lloyd were from Guyana.
Guyana, yeah.
Yes. So there was a connect, and Rohan Kanhai was fabulous on the cricket circuit, even at the age of 38, 39, 40 in county cricket. So I think Lloyd pushed for his inclusion in the, just for that tournament. And he made 54 in the final.
Yeah.
Clive Lloyd's 100, everybody remembers.
80 odd balls, 82 balls.
Blazing 100.
Imagine before T20.
But they were struggling.
Yeah.
And without the support that he got from Rohan Kanhai.
So the Guyanese boys took the game away from Australia.
Yeah, before.
Till Isaac Vivian Alexander decided to run out everyone.
Correct.
Yeah.
But, that was a consequence of getting enough runs to defend.
True. But 75, I'm just trying to think, what were your thoughts watching one-day cricket?
Well, we didn't watch much of it. Television, as I mentioned,
Correct.
came rather late to
West Indies didn't
India.
get to watch the final
West
because
Indies
it wasn't
didn't get
shown.
to watch the final. West
For
Indies
West
have
Indies.
suffered a lot despite doing so well, 75, 79.
Their people never
even
got to
83.
enjoy the victories.
Yeah, so I mean, the West Indies is not a country, it's a combination or
Correct,
amalgamation of so many countries, and not all of them are
Friends.
friends or as developed as you might think, just because of the proximity to the US.
Well, now thanks to the IPL, they're very well developed
They
because
are.
all their players are paid so well.
And T20 cricket, actually.
Yeah.
But in 75, India's prospects, it was exciting to see an Indian team participating in the World Cup.
Hmm.
We
didn't win, no? We beat Kenya. No, it was East Africa as it was called.
East Africa.
That was it.
That was
I
it.
think Bishan Singh Bedi bowled some
12 overs for very
2
little,
runs
very
or 5
few
runs.
Yeah. I mean, it was a shoddy performance by India in the 75 World Cup. I mean, everything that you associated with limited overs cricket, India's performance was the antithesis of it.
Right.
Starting, of course, with 36 of 60 overs. So I asked Sunny
you
Gavaskar.
didn't tell us that.
I must mention. Much later.
Yeah.
I think when he was around his 60th birthday, when I did an interview with him. So two things always stood out in my mind about Gavaskar, which were controversial. One was 36 of 60 overs. The other was
pulling
Chetan
Chauhan off
almost
the ground.
walking off the ground and
We'll save that story for another day.
conceding the match. But
yeah.
he feels that 36 not out, he just couldn't put a foot right that day. And therefore,
what was he trying to do?
The graver misdemeanor for him was
He couldn't get out.
No, trying to pull Chetan Chauhan out.
That's
So in his own mind.
But just going, because what a fantastic batsman and what great innings he's played across the world. I just want to know, do you think there was an attitude issue? Because that's what people perceived. I mean, like this game is beneath me kind of thingy. What I can't understand.
I mean, when you look back and if you ask him, perhaps in hindsight, you could have just hit your own wicket and come back.
Yeah.
That's what you would do.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't think of a situation where you're batting out an entire innings and scoring 36. I mean, if you made 36 in 4-5 overs and went back, that's fine.
Yeah.
But 36 of 60 overs, that means that the opportunities
for
for
this-
the others have been restricted.
I ask for this generation to understand something like that. That's 60 overs,
But
firstly,
it
not
was,
50.
You must. I think there was a complexity about associating or understanding.
And he was not the
ODI
only
cricket.
one.
He was not the only one.
They were all like, what the hell are we doing here sort of feeling.
Actually, it took a fair while for Indian cricket to get adept at playing. I mean, 83 World Cup is a classic
Example.
It stands out as.
We'll come to that in a later episode, I think. And of course, I think you'll talk about Burbase, where that famous innings happens by Kapil Dev.
Yeah.
I think I'll turn the corner. I think you'll give us a good perspective on that as well later. But I want to stick with this for now because there's so much to talk about. 75, not a great performance. West Indies on the rise. Australia sort of maybe a little overconfident. Let's go to 79.
The West Indies in 79 were at their zenith
as
a world. It is a brute force.
Just give us some names for those people who were born a little later. Let's look at half that team. There's Lloyd, there's Greenwich, there's Richards,
there's Haynes,
there's
Viv Richards, there's Clive
Holding,
Lloyd, there's
Roberts,
Holding, there's Joel Garner.
And
there's Collis King.
He plays a very important role as well.
A bit of a maverick player in the sense that he didn't
actually
have a
outscored the King.
Outscored the King.
In terms of speed.
Yeah, but the nobody had quite had the swag and the persona of Viv Richards in the middle.
You don't have to tell me my favorite all-time player of all time, no question. Yeah, but before we hit the final, India in 79, any improvements? Could you see that the seeds of 83 being, maybe the personnel are taking the game more seriously?
I think some kind of improvement, but not enough. I mean, you struggle to. It was a team kind of still steeped in mediocrity.
We didn't take any spinners, or. We decided to go with the medium pacers because of the English conditions.
I mean, Venkatraghavan was there.
Yeah.
And so he was also the captain.
Yeah.
So it's not that there were no spinners. I think the zest for ODI cricket was still missing. I think, in 75, for instance, Farooq Engineer was there. He had played a lot in English
And he was
cricket.
born for white ball cricket.
He was born for white. But by 75, 79, he was gone. He had retired.
Right.
There was not enough spirit of adventure in the Indian
So you're
team.
saying we didn't have the born to play one day cricket player yet in 79?
Not at all. And one of the reasons,
Can we go to 3-4 names for those people again to familiarize?
No, I mean, we had some good quality players like Brijesh Patel.
But not the fastest batsman in the world.
Yes,
You think?
I mean, Brijesh Patel was a fantastic stroke player if you look at his record in
Yeah.
domestic cricket. So you have to go by what they do in
Right,
domestic cricket.
right.
But then you have players like Anshuman Gaikwad, who's part of the squad, but not necessarily a limited overs cricketer.
Famous attritional batsman,
Yes.
way down the bowler.
Yes.
Hardcore red ball expert, yeah.
So, I mean, we just lacked that understanding and that.
So we hadn't embraced the game in a sense, you would say.
We hadn't embraced the game.
Yeah.
I think we were still reluctant. We were still. We looked at it a little dubiously, limited overs cricket, as a cultural factor.
Why did England win in that case? Because they had all the county 50 over, 60 over championships, 40 over championships. They were playing all these tournaments, so they were the most well practiced. They also had a couple of foreigners in the side, etc. So they had that exposure to others. Why didn't they do better? I mean, they reached the final, but it took them.
But 75 they reached
2019 they win their first World Cup. You'd think that they would have been right there.
I think one of the problems that I've seen with English cricket, or Malays actually, was for many, many years, decades, that they overthought the game. There was just too much overthinking. There was too much adherence to
Not
theory.
the Pakistani or West Indian flair.
The Pakistani or West Indies. Okay, so in 79, West Indies and England are in the final.
Right.
The English opening pair is
Boycott and Brearley.
Jeff Boycott and Mike
For
Brearley.
those who are born later, please check out the...
And Clive Lloyd's task was to ensure that neither gets out.
Is this a true story? We don't know if this
I would
is a
like
true
to
story.
think it's a true story.
So let's just set it up
so
for
they
people.
have this massive partnership,
Yeah.
century plus partnership,
Yeah.
and the run rate keeps mounting. And then, it's obvious
There's a catch.
there's a catch. I mean, you take it to a stage after which you have to keep throwing your bat at everything, and you keep losing wickets. And that's exactly what
Boycott
happened.
gives a chance and Lloyd drops it.
Yeah,
And
so
legend has it that he
legend
dropped it
has-
purposely. He wanted them to continue batting. But I can't believe
it's
that.
a great story.
What do you think?
Yeah, but, why not? I think Clive Lloyd...
Yeah, in hindsight, it sounds fantastic. but
Clive Lloyd, who knew Boycott better than Clive Lloyd, having
That's
spent
true.
years and years
Yeah.
in county
Lancashire,
cricket.
Yorkshire, all
and,
neighbours.
And the minds, and Boycott himself was outspoken about what he is expected to do and what he will do in the middle. Playing whatever level of cricket, whatever format, and nobody could tell Boycott to change his game.
Yeah.
Incidentally, one of the things that I remember, and surely you will, that he also bowled in that World Cup.
Really? Yeah, correct.
He used to bowl 12 overs.
Yeah.
And he used to bowl with his cap on.
Yeah. So they played only 4 specialist bowlers.
They played 4 specialist
Yeah.
bowlers.
So
and
everybody had their own ideas. It's still an evolving time in terms of white ball
And
cricket.
I think if you look back, really perhaps missed a trick. Maybe they didn't have enough all-round depth of talent. But I thought that they should have pushed the likes of Botham and Gower.
That's it. Botham and Gar were good enough. They should just put them in at
if
the
they
top.
can't do it, certainly Brearley and Boycott can't.
Yeah.
In
And
fact,
definitely not Brearley and Boycott together.
I
As
think that
opening
was
pair. I will accept English conditions. The ball is seaming, supposing it was that particular day. One of them there for sure.
correct. So you need that stability at the top. So even the ODI game then was very different from what it is now. It's now hammer and tongs. Batsmen going from ball one. I mean, you can't imagine a Boycott or a Brearley playing like Travis Head, for instance.
Right,
But
my God.
yeah. So, but
What? Yeah.
you still needed, and especially in English conditions, you needed stability at the top, a good start. Then you accelerate. Then you, after a foundation, you start building up, and then you look for the big runs or the big shots. But that's a very onerous task against the likes of the West Indies, team.
And probably at their best or close to their best. Also, let's look at that final for a second. The semi-finals were interesting as well. But the final, Viv Richards with the 138, where we mentioned earlier, and Collis King actually with 80-odd outscored him for a little while.
86, I think.
86 in that partnership. But well over run a ball. Outscored Viv for a little while. So I'm saying that's some serious talent because Collis King is hardly remembered today.
Correct, but 100 is 100 in a World Cup final.
King is the king.
From 86 to 138 can often be the big
Difference.
decisive influence. I think you mentioned about England always being there and not winning, but there are 2 other teams which took a long, long while to win. Pakistan, very gifted team.
Yeah.
When you look at Asif Iqbal, Majid Khan, Zahir Abbas, Javed Miadad, and so on, Imran Khan, and they were in the semis.
Sarfraz Nawaz.
Then there was obviously the New Zealand team, consistently doing well, 75, 79, and so on.
Actually, they have
many
good
years.
World Cup record, but without
Very good World Cup
taking the
record
title.
without winning the ODI title. So
They did very well in India recently in Red Ball, though. Don't want to mention that, but these things happen. Win some, lose some. Yeah.
IDFC FIRST Bank. Let's go with this one. The first 3 World Cups were sponsored by UK-based Prudential Assurance. The company covered every player or official in case of any accidental injury or even death.
Back to the World Cup. In 75, you didn't mention this. Imran Khan actually was doing exams in the middle. Is this a true story?
yes,
I
he was
researching
still
this.
in university. So, and he had been called up to play in,
So
in
in
the
between-
bilateral series in 71.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah, that was the debut, huh?
And when he was bowling without such lack of control,
Huh.
that, and this is again a story we don't know, where the
Yeah.
umpire at the bowler's end is telling the batsman, right arm anywhere.
Really?
Yeah. That he would just hurl the ball quick.
But just thinking about how, I wouldn't say amateur, but how non-professional the whole setup was, that Imran in 75 was doing his exams in between and so missed a couple of games. He was at Oxford and he had to actually give papers.
But why was it, unusual? Because he was staying in England, he was part of the university team, playing for
Look at the modern day cricketer, Ayaz, just
No,
for a
modern
second.
day
I'm thinking,
cricketers,
this is what they did, this is what we do.
So
it's
what
just-
used to happen in 75 or even now when there's a World Cup on, like the IPL now, the entire cricket world is there at one place
Right.
in one country, and therefore movement is not so difficult. It's not if you're in a country like Australia or even South Africa or the West Indies, to travel from one venue to the other would entail a lot of hardship. But not England. You're a couple of hours away from your
That's
home.
true. Yeah.
So that made it possible.
It's amazing India didn't conquer England because it's so much easier if we reversed it. We do it in 20 minutes. We have in a way. Some neo-imperialism has started.
Though I must mention your 79 because we talked about the World Cup and India's poor performance.
By the way, you
again.
covered it, right?
Yeah.
In 79?
So the big tour in that year was India versus England.
Right.
The bilateral series. And Gavaskar making 221.
Yeah.
And when, after seeing that knock, Sir Len Hutton wrote in a newspaper column that he is one of the greatest opening batsmen of all time, is when the world, when I say the world, I mean the British media,
Finally said.
which used to appoint or destroy, reputations of players, said, hey, this guy is an all-time great. So, 79 was an epochal year in many ways.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can make money on your money by just having an IDFC FIRST Bank saving account. There are literally zero charges on all the savings account services, and you can get great interest per annum by just keeping money in your savings account, which gets credited monthly. So before next week's episode, visit the IDFC FIRST Bank website and get more details. Any last thoughts on 79 as a World Cup? Do you see a progress in terms of popularity between 75 and 79 for the audience coming in, watching the World Cup?
Yes, certainly, because there is more and more, ability or facility to watch the matches.
Right.
By now, even in Bombay or Mumbai, there were at least community television sets where you could watch matches. And the transfer of information was that much greater. Radio obviously was always there for people who were interested in cricket. So more information, more knowledge, growing knowledge, knowing more about other players, how they are playing, and therefore kind of analyzing, for me at least, why India is doing well or not doing well.
But the payments were still a pittance, right?
For the players?
For winning the World Cup also not much.
Yeah, payments for a pittance for a very long
Poor
time.
West Indies, I'm saying they're back-to-back winners
Yes.
of the Prudential Cup, which is now called the World Cup.
Yes.
But got nothing, got very little.
They got very little because they were, the rewards for the West Indies, in the West Indies, were, when you look back now, appallingly poor.
How sad, really.
So, for all the great players that they've had,
Really. I
and
mean,
not just the World Cup teams, you're talking of Sobers and Kanhai
going
and
back
Hunt
to
and
George
Hall
Headley and everybody else,
Yeah.
I mean, a huge litany of great names. But I'm just thinking at this point, the world of cricket, people like yourself would be thinking West Indies are untouchable. I'm just setting it up for...
Unbeatable, not untouchable.
Unbeatable. Okay, sorry, unbeatable. Also, white ball, they really took to white ball by now. It looked like it was their format. They were winning everything in sight.
I think the big change even for the West Indies and for world cricket was Kerry Packer. Coloured clothing, night cricket, white ball cricket.
So the Aussies who played Kerry Packer weren't allowed, right? To play in 79.
They were boycotted.
This is Kim Hughes brought the side which some people would call a B team.
Even in the 83 World Cup,
Yeah.
there were many who could have been playing for Australia. were not there. For instance, Greg Chappell didn't play in the 83 World Cup, and he was their top batsman.
Right. So just to set the record straight, in 79, going back to 79, not a full A squad of Australians turned up.
Not a full.
Not that we should point fingers. West Indies won, and West Indies full team in spite of playing Kerry Packer, many of them.
West Indies full team, India full team, Pakistan full team, England full team,
Yeah.
New Zealand full team. So it's not that, barring Australia, I think that, and Sri Lanka still finding their spurs, so to
Could
speak.
you tell that Sri Lanka would win a World Cup as quickly as 96 when you saw them in 79?
Not in 79. It seemed
You wouldn't take it seriously.
a distant dream.
Yeah.
But I went to Sri Lanka in 1984-85 with the Indian cricket team.
The
not,
first test
Not
that
for
we
the World
played.
Cup. For the first test and the first... And
Dilip Mendes gets centuries. in
Dilip
each innings.
Mendes, a young Aravinda De Silva,
Yeah.
Rana
What a
Tunga,
team.
Roy
Yeah.
Dias,
Wow.
all these guys. So there was a lot... They had the same kind of refreshing approach like the West Indians in many ways. I think it had to do with...
That's a great
it to
thing,
do with
yeah.
the sea and the sun and the sand and,
That free-spirited approach, like
Free-spirited
the artist
approach.
at work.
Yes, yes.
No science to it, just pure art.
Yeah, and it just needed that boost in self-belief and confidence which would take them several notches higher. That happened in 1996.
Yeah. All right, we'll wind it up here. 75, 79, 73 World Cup with the ladies. 75, 79, the West Indies are ruling the roost. We'll pick it up when we meet at some point. We meet Ayaz at some point further down the road. We'll pick up on 83 and go forward with the World Cups as well if we can. Ayaz, thank you so much for being here on the show. Good to have you. Any last words on 75 and 79? Any memories that you would like to
No, I think some of the memories are not very happy, as we know, from 75, even 79, because in both these tournaments, there was just one win. The rest were all defeats.
In two tournaments, one win.
In two tournaments,
Across
India
two,
won
yeah.
one match. So, it was, you were, in a sense, rock bottom. And then who knew that 4 years later, from rock bottom, you'll be...
The romance of cricket. As we say, we'll end it here. Thanks for watching. This is Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFC FIRST Bank. Ayaz, the unstoppable Memon. Right hand fast from Mahim, as far as I can tell.
Yes.
Right?
And wearing my pads on and then bowling fast.
Bowling with pads on. There you go, man. It's different. No one can point fingers. Who would have thought the reverse sweep would be like conventional cricket?
It was a different generation
I know.
when we played, isn't it, Cyrus?
I watch the kids playing at Elf Academy Oval all the time because I go there with my dogs and they're just hitting the ball in the air and I'm thinking how the world changed.
Yeah.
If you hit a ball in the air at a coaching academy in the
But
80s or 70s.
times change, the world changes,
True,
and
true.
I think it's cricket has got more
You're
exciting.
a romantic that way. You love the fact that
I love-
innovations come and go. You're not one of the...
I love the 5-day game,
Yeah.
but I'm not disdainful about the T20 or the ODI. I love cricket,
True.
and
That's fair.
take it as it comes.
There you go. We'll leave you with an extra cover drive by Ayaz. Ayaz, please. If
Thank
could
you.
Just play the extra cover drive once. It's rare to see in today's.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, before we go, a quick alert from IDFC FIRST Bank about a new scam which goes like this. Make instant money by liking YouTube videos. Scammers use WhatsApp or SMS to offer part-time jobs with high earnings for liking or subscribing to videos. They make small payments initially, then ask for larger investments and disappear. So please don't respond to unknown numbers offering high returns and never share personal or banking information. Stay cautious of suspicious links or apps.